Okay, so you sit down to work, but 10 minutes later, you've texted your best friend, checked your messages 50 times, and already put in a load of laundry, and you still haven't gotten started. Can you relate to this? Okay, so today we're going to talk about distractibility. My name is Elissa Smith, and I'm a trauma informed executive coach. And this is part 3 of 4 in a series to help you unblock your next level in the new year. So you have to understand distraction is actually a strategy. It is not something that means you're lazy. It is not something that means like you just need to be better, work harder, do more. It's actually a strategy that your survival system, your survival brain has developed to help your nervous system steer you to be the safest you can be. Now, what I mean by this is distractibility serves a purpose, okay? Every unhelpful coping mechanism that now as an adult you're like, why do I still do this? Every single one of those mechanisms really started out as serving a healthy, helpful purpose as a kid. So we learned if we're distractible as adults, if we really struggle with focus. Now, granted, there are some diagnoses around this that can be medicated, helped with therapy, that kind of thing. But I'm talking about just in general, most adults are highly distractible. And if you have the added bonus that your childhood proved to your nervous system that you should distract yourself, that you shouldn't work too hard, that you shouldn't stay focused on one thing for too long or stay focused until the task is complete. There's a really good reason for this, but it will derail you as an adult with the goals that you have now. So how do we, looking at the end of the year, looking at the next few weeks that are coming and looking at how we're going to start the new year, how do we actually stop being distracted and stay focused? It's really important that you understand where it started for you. So I'm just going to tell you a couple of places that you might be able to recognize from your childhood. So it's possible that you have always worked so hard, probably being the responsible daughter, being the nice one, being the glue that everybody depends on to keep the group together or to keep the project going. You probably became very familiar with overload. Overload, overwork, overthinking. You are probably the person that carried most of the burden in the relationships that you've had, or especially the ones that you had when you were little. Maybe you were even the one that balanced the family dynamics, took responsibility for your parents' feelings. Maybe you walked on eggshells all the time, trying to think your way around the next curveball that was going to come that you couldn't tell. It was going to be unpredictable. It was just going to happen and knock you off your feet. So if you grew up overloaded, and even if nobody else was throwing tasks on you, if that was your identity, if you became that responsible one and you became like the high achiever, the perfectionist, the performing one, then your system is going to be like, hold on, we don't need any more hard work. We don't want you to dive into this project, even if this is the kicker, even if it's something you really want to be doing, or if it's something that really aligns with your goals, your system could still try to stop you because it doesn't recognize that you're going to be able to keep yourself safe. It's not updated. It doesn't know that you're the adult in charge now. It's really worried that you're not going to get your needs met because it thinks that you're still a child. It still thinks that there are still other authority figures that can determine how hard are you going to work? Are you going to get it done? Are you going to do it the right way? All of that, right? So overload can be one root cause of this. Another one is there could be unprocessed trauma. You might not feel traumatized, but listen, that just means your system did its job because a child who experiences any type of trauma, we're talking big T trauma, the big bad stuff that shouldn't happen to anyone, or little t trauma, which is nonviolent trauma but still leaves emotional scars, or tiny t trauma, which is one that I coined this term to help my clients understand these hidden, sneaky ways that their emotional needs went unmet. And it now means that they sabotage themselves as adults. Okay, so unprocessed trauma, your brain is going to be constantly scanning for threats because trauma says, oh, the world is an unsafe place. So I need to constantly be scanning the horizon, looking for threats, making sure that we're not actually fully committed to anything because we might need to back out at any moment. So the distractibility comes right in real handy for that. You also might feel like this is just a bad habit, like You might have been told that the way that you overcome things is to be the hardest worker in the room. And so the more you work hard, the more your system gets stressed, the less focus you have. Because here's the thing, your brain doesn't know the difference between a wild animal actually chasing you or this project that's causing you a lot of stress or this person, this conversation that you had that's causing you stress. So your stress response is the same no matter what. Fight, flight response, there's also freeze and fawn. Freeze is pretty apparent. Fawn means to please your way to safety. And guess what? Those four things can show up in all kinds of ways. This distractibility is a freeze response. It's typically something that's trying to halt you from doing the thing that your system sees as a threat. Now, the fun part about this, I'm being sarcastic, is that you also, in a survival mode response, you don't have access to the higher level executive functions that your brain needs in order for you to complete the project you sat down to do 10 minutes ago and haven't touched. Okay. So you don't have access to those while you're in this really heightened response. It's a hypervigilant response. The distractibility is at an all time high when your system feels threatened, especially if these patterns started while you were young. So, what are we going to do about this? Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 quick focus hacks to get you back on track, and you can use this anytime you need to. It's going to be something this exercise communicates to your nervous system that hey, it's safe. The horizon is safe. We don't have to worry. We don't have to protect ourselves. We don't have to be distracted in order to get this thing accomplished or in order to protect ourselves from being overloaded, overworked. This is going to communicate right with your vagus nerve and your survival brain and your amygdala and be like, hey, update. We're actually okay. This is not a life threat. Okay, so number one, what you're going to do is a quick 1 minute reset. This just means get back in your body. The best way that I help my clients with this is with my 3S framework. So you take 3 deep breaths as your first S. That's the safety piece, okay? When you're breathing slow, your system can tell you're not running from a wild animal, but it needs that proof. You can't talk yourself out of this stress response or you can't talk yourself into being more focused, right? Have you ever noticed that? I wish you could. So you take your 3 deep breaths in this 60-second reset, okay? And then the second S is self nurturing. And so you make a cup of tea, do something nice for your senses, and then reach out and get some safe support from somebody. Now, this could just be a text to your bestie being like, hey, what's up? Hey, thought of you, thinking of you, what are you doing? Here's what my day is like. Or it could be like, I am struggling to start this project. It could be anything because your system just needs to know you're connected. The next thing you do, okay, so in your 1 minute reset, you're doing your 3 S's, right? Especially the 3 deep breaths. If you do nothing else, those breaths will help. It'll help reset you for a few minutes so that you can get some of your executive level functions back, okay? The other thing that you want to do is getting into your body is really important. So, doing some sort of body movement. So, one thing that I like to have my clients do, because this also helps with waking up your vagus nerve and the nervous system, is you just take your head and you tilt to the side and you look up out of the corner of your eye just a little bit. And you do this for a few seconds on each side and you just see how that feels and see what you notice happens for your nervous system. And it really doesn't have to be long. This complete process is just 3 deep breaths, do something nurturing, grab a cup of tea, and then you do some body motion. And that will actually get you back centered. So you have access to all of your executive functions again, and you can start then on the next piece. So that's the first thing is the 1 minute reset. The second thing you do after you do your reset is you focus your attention boundaries. It can be really easy once you are in the habit and in the flow and you have the brain pathway of I try to focus and then I get distracted. That's just naturally what your brain is going to try to do. It's familiar. It thinks that that is the safest way to be. Okay, so we're going to update it. We're going to say, okay, we're going to take a small amount of time and set a timer and a small focus block, and we are going to we're going to do D&D on the phone, right? We're going to turn off distractions. We're going to put other things out of your mind. Now, at first, this may be hard. You may want to have a pad of paper next to you that you're writing down the stuff that wants to distract you, but don't go onto your phone. I'm watching you. I'm not. But that is something where it's like, oh yeah, I got to do this thing on my phone and then another 10 minutes go by, right? So have a pad of paper next to you, write down any distracted thoughts, write down anything you remember that you need to do because your brain is probably used to prompting you to do productive things as distractions. So Then set your timer for 25 minutes and see how you do for that focus block. If you need to do a smaller one, you could start with 10, start with 15, and your brain will gradually enlarge its window of tolerance for this focus time. So then what you do at the end of the attention boundary time is you can do an entire mental declutter in just a few minutes. You do a brain dump and you figure out what your action items are next. So you do the first thing, then you have your list of things that have been trying to distract you. Then you go to that list, you add to it whatever comes to mind, and then you decide what aligns best as my next focus block. Here's the key to all of this. It does not matter how bad you are at this at first. It doesn't matter how bad you are at the focus. You need to celebrate any teeny tiny win. The fact that you're watching this video is a win. The fact that you maybe did the 3 deep breaths with me is a win. You need to do something that lets your system know this is what we get rewarded for: the calm, the spaciousness, the relaxing, the focus, the trying to change the pattern. Okay. When your brain recognizes what you're rewarding yourself for, it will start to do more of those things automatically. So, however you want to celebrate, turn on your favorite song, go grab a favorite snack, whatever it is that makes you feel happy that you just did something for yourself, something to break the pattern. When you celebrate those wins, you'll be able to string more and more and more of them together because the nervous system learns from small, consistent steps and getting consistent new behaviors all in a row. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but the more of them you can string together, the more you're going to reprogram your neural pathways, which is what we're going for, so that you don't have the initial distractible struggle at first. So you can totally rewire this by finding out exactly what caused it for you, what the family of origin causes or the early trauma causes, and really uprooting the unsafe feelings and unsafe thought processes that your system is interpreting as unsafe. And so when you are doing those consistent focused attention blocks and rewarding yourself and looking at the origin, you become unstoppable. And that is how you set your new year up for success. So, next week, come back and join me on January 1st for our final episode of this series, because I'm going to walk you through exactly how to leave this year's chaos behind you so that you can unleash a new level of ease, peace, and calm to get you into that next level of success in the new year. We'll see you next time.